Welcome to the submodule on care plan services and scheduling. In this video, we will learn about adding new care plan services, updating the basic details of a service, creating or updating service schedules, and after this submodule, there will be a scheduling quiz. The care plan services are the client's assessed services approved by the funding provider. These are scheduled to be delivered to the client on a regular basis. You can also add any recurring services just as long as you specify the funding source so it's clear if the client is paying through a government subsidy, insurance, or out of pocket. If the recurring service has been created through a quote, the system auto-populates the service based on the service templates. The templates are initially set on the implementation stage, so be mindful of your organization preferences when customizing services for clients. After adding the basic details of the care plan, let's now proceed to the services. Expand the care plan services and click on Add New Item to Plan. If you're updating a care plan after the quote has been accepted, you do not need to do this step unless you want to add extra services for the clients. But in case you do need to add additional services, we highly suggest that you update from the quote to make sure that the additional service doesn't cause an overspill on the budget. You can check the knowledge base and the Academy videos for more information around recoding. After clicking Add New Item to Plan, you will see the New Item Details section. If you have accepted from a quote, this section will be automatically populated with the details from the service templates. When you select a service from the drop-down, it will pull out all of the information on the description, form format, tasks, skills, conditions and treatment plans, and instructions to staff that were initially added from the template. Of course, this is highly customizable. If you can't find the service that you're looking for, it's possible that your client's funding source doesn't support it. Some organizations have a rule that when enabled, it only shows the services for which the client is funded. You can contact your system's admin to check your general configurations. So let's pick a service from the dropdown. Under the service name, you can add a general description of the service. After adding a blurb about your service, you can now go to the form format dropdown and select the forms that are required to be filled out during the service. An example would be a client sign off that your clients can sign after a staff member has completed the service. It can include the feedback or a satisfaction rating. Another example is when a staff member goes out to do an intake service for the client. You can have all of the assessments under one service to make the forms easily accessible to your onboarding team. You can also report on the forms that have been completed during the service, and that is on the service review dashboard. Next up are tasks or activities that needs to be done during the service. You can remove tasks by clicking on the X icon on the side, or you can type a task and then press enter to add new tasks. The next field are the staff skills. This is how we know who's qualified or not qualified to deliver a service. So select from the drop down. You can add as many as you can. However, this will impact auto scheduling and the scheduling recommendation. It is highly recommended to link the service to the client's goals and treatment plans. This is useful to auditors since it allows them to quickly identify which services contributed to the client's goal and track its progress. And it will also show what the organization is doing to aid the client in reaching their goals at a glance. In the instructions to staff section, you can write detailed descriptions of what the client expects and how the staff should do the tasks. This is included in the service and guarantees that the staff member understands exactly how to provide the service based on the client's expectations. Scheduling care plan services are easy to manage and compliant to your organization needs and the government standards. The care plan scheduling allows organizations to manage complex and varying scheduling requirements. And the care plan services, of course, will flow through the client's calendar and the team's scheduling area for rostering. So now let's move on to the schedules. There are two types of schedules in CareVision. First is the fixed schedule. Fixed schedules are services that need to happen on a strict schedule. An example would be your medication intake or your scheduled appointments. Flexible schedules, on the other hand, are your time agnostic services. So it can be moved on a different time depending on your staff availability, the client schedule, or by request. An example would be your gardening services, your personal care services, your laundry services, or any non medical related activity. The frequency field determines how the service is going to be delivered on a recurring basis. We have several options like daily, which means that the service will be delivered every day. A good example of this kind of service are your meals and your medications. Weekly are services that happens on a weekly basis. It can be once a week, twice a week, or three times a week. This can be your Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedules, or your Tuesday, Thursday, Fridays, or if it happens once a week, twice a week. This is very flexible. Another frequency are your fortnightly schedules. So this schedule happens every 2 weeks. And an example would be your gardening services or maybe or if you need nail cutting. So that's also an option. Next up is the polyweekly schedule. So it's almost the same as fortnightly in the sense that fortnightly is every 2 weeks. In polyweekly, you can specify how many weeks must pass before the service will be repeated. So, for example, it could be every 5 weeks, every 3 weeks, every 8 weeks. It really depends. So, it gives you a lot more flexibility on the schedule. We also have your monthly date based. So, this option will allow you to select a specific date each month. So, for example, if you have a service every third day of the month or every fifth day of the month, and then you can also have a monthly week based schedule, which will be more like every first Friday of the month, every third Wednesday of the month kind of schedule. And then, of course, you have your yearly schedule or your annual schedules. This can be used for your reviews or any service that happens once a year. It can be your vaccinations or your immunizations. So, next up are your dates, which is the start and end on. So, this will define when will the service will become active or inactive on the care plan. When you set the start date on a future date, the service will only be active on the date you have specified. You can also specify an end date if you want the service to end on a fixed period. But if you do not know when the service will actually end, you can leave it as blank. And the service will continue until such time that you have added in an end date. Let's move on to adding the service locations. The start location is where the staff member is expected to check in to the service. If there is traveling involved and the staff needs to drop off the client to another location, add an end location. But if the service is going to be on the same location, you can leave the end date blank. Note that you need to be accurate when adding the locations because approvers will be able to see where the staff members checked in. This can be done after every week on the service review dashboard. Also, you can still change the locations. You can still change the locations when allocating or publishing a booking as requested by the client. This can be done from the calendar or the scheduling area. Let's go through the steps and do a quick exercise to prepare a sample service schedule. Log into your portal and create a new care plan, or you can also update an existing care plan. Add a care plan service by picking any service in the organization. Update the following fields: the description, form formats, tasks, skills, conditions and treatment plans, and the instructions to staff. Select a schedule type. For the frequency, let us do a fortnightly schedule, starting from the day to day and ends in 2 weeks. Add a start location by selecting from the drop-down. If you do not have a client address on the profile, you can type in the unit number, street number, and the rest of the address. Do not close the care plan or save just yet. Go to the next video about the schedule occurrence and the billing and funding section of the care plan service. If you have any questions around this topic, you can check out our website at carevision.com and chat with our friendly web support team.